Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this SAG-AFTRA live stream on YouTube. To stay informed about all of our live stream and video events, we invite you to subscribe to this channel. You can go ahead and do that right now. Today, we present the President's Task Force on Education, Outreach, and Engagement live stream, Dance-Hyphenates in the New Normal. The presentation will begin momentarily. If you have questions that you would like to direct to today's guest, please email pteoe@sagaftra.org. That's pteoe@sagaftra.org. As a reminder, today's program is being recorded, and you can watch the replay right here on SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel, along with more great content. So now, please give a warm welcome to today's host, SAG-AFTRA President Gabrielle Carteris.
Thank you, Shira. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. So we have put together a very special panel for you today. We're going to present today's topic, Dance-Hyphenates in the New Normal. Today, we're going to hear from a panel of professional dancers, and as with everything over the past year, the way that dancers work, where they work, how they work has changed rapidly. Everyone had to adjust to this new normal, whatever that means, and dancers have seen a major shift in what is expected of them. Where once a dancer actually went to work and performed steps, learned from a choreographer on a set and in a costume conceived by designers, now a dancer is often asked to not only perform, but to choreograph, to style, film, edit, promote the piece. It is an incredible challenge and has changed the game for all of our dancers. They've already dedicated years of blood, sweat, and tears perfecting their technique and their skills, and now they're being asked to do so much more. So today's moderator is SAG-AFTRA New York local board member Jamal Story. Jamal is already used to wearing many hats. It's great to have him here. I'm glad he's going to be able to lead the discussion. Jamal is a professional dancer, a choreographer, a teacher. He's a writer. He's performed with acclaimed choreographers such as Donald Byrd, The Group, Madonna's 2001 Drowned World Tour, Complexions Contemporary Ballet, and with Cher as an aerialist and dancer on her Living Proof, the Farewell Tour, and her Dress to Kill Tour. He's also been seen on Broadway in The Color Purple as a dancer, an assistant dance captain, and in Motown the Musical. Jamal is a strong advocate for educating young artists about changing landscape of dance. He serves as chair of the SAG-AFTRA National Dancers Committee and sits on the New York local board. Thank you so much for being with us today, Jamal. I'm excited to hear the conversation. There's going to be a lot to discuss, so I'm just going to hand this right over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam President. It's great to be here. I'm happy to welcome all of you to our virtual panel discussion. We're thrilled to be here. We're thrilled to have this conversation finally, and I'm happy to do it with the esteemed colleagues that I have with me. I'll introduce those folks in a second, but I wanted to say hello to all of the dancers tuning in, all of the colleagues out there who are here with us right now. We are there with you too. It's been rough. This last year has been rough. Dancing through the pandemic has been hard. And we're all trying to get back to being in the spaces together, collaborating, improvising, creating, and doing all the things that we do. Including the smell of the studio after a rehearsal. No? Anybody? No, not so much? Just me? Okay, fine. We're excited to SAG-AFTRA and our sister unions for establishing the safe way forward guidelines for getting us back to work during the pandemic. That was a lot of work and cooperation from lots of people, so we appreciate that. And even though we're back on sets and things are slowly returning to normal, it's not the normal that we know. It's not the one we remember. Between the start of the shutdown and the reopening of the industry, everyone was hustling to stay afloat. And the technology that we use every day to communicate and sort of connect has played a huge part in shaping how the work gets made and who makes it. So today we're going to talk about how all of that tech has changed the game, has sort of infiltrated our dance world in some good ways and some not so good ways, and how it's compelled many of us to evolve from or continue the evolution from dancer to dancer, choreographer, influencer, content creator, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with all those hats, and how all of these roles fit into SAG-AFTRA contracts. So let me introduce these amazing women that I have on the panel with me. Dacia James Lewis, my Atlanta sister, is a triple threat with a passion for creating quality entertainment. She's an accomplished choreographer. She's a polished performer. She's a seasoned creative visionary. She has experience working with some of the best entertainers in the industry: Stevie Wonder, Kanye West, Mary J. Blige, Tracy Ellis Ross, Jennifer Hudson, Jamie Foxx. She's got a long resume. And her industry experience extends to working with big brands: Weight Watchers, Pantene, Pro V, and Wiener Schnitzel. In addition to all the television shows and films and commercials. Thank you for being here, Dacia. Then, of course, there is my LA sister, Danielle Towne. Most of you know her. She is my co-chair she's the chair of the LA Dancers Committee, or no, you're the co-chair. She's going to correct me on all of this. She's a co-chair of the LA Dancers Committee. And she chairs the music video negotiations committee. She's been a professional dancer and choreographer for over 20 years, even though she looks 25. She has been on several international tours, music videos, stage shows: Lady Gaga, Black Eyed Peas, Katy Perry, Aretha Franklin, Britney Spears. It's a long resume there too. Danielle also does a lot of work advocating on behalf of the dance community to improve working conditions and increase wages so that the next generation of professional dancers is more fairly treated and compensated. She is also the vice chair of the National Dance Committee as well. Thank you for being here and for being here with me. I kind of feel like Danielle is mine sometimes, even though she belongs to us all. And finally, Danny Vitale is brilliant performer, born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, started dancing at a young age. She has performed on countless award shows and television series and is working. I don't know how she's here today, because I wouldn't be surprised if she has to run to a job. Now she works so often. After a decade of being that kind of working dancer, Danny began to be sought out as a choreographer and creative director as well. With her extreme knowledge in the performance space, she started choreographing and directing world tours, numerous award show performances, TV appearances, and music videos for a variety of artists. She's now accumulated many years of knowledge in front and behind the camera that she takes into work every day, still choreographing, creating, creative directing, and producing. And she is bringing all of those things and those perspectives here for this conversation. Thank you for joining us, Danny. And last, but certainly not least, I mean, this is very important because we love this woman, SAG-AFTRA business representative, Janae Lynch. She is passionate about performer rights, and it shows up in all of the work that she does for us. She has actually agented some of us on this panel. Janae joined SAG-AFTRA in 2017 as a business representative in music. Janae's focus is contract education and enforcement for singers and dancers for TV, film, new media, and music video contracts. She is also a staff liaison for singers and dancers, yay, working on numerous events and educational forums for SAG-AFTRA members, as well as a contributor to the negotiation teams working on singer and dancer contract provisions, which are very important to us. Prior to her time here at SAG-AFTRA, Janae was, again, an agent for several of us. So she has a very deep and wide understanding of this industry from a contract place, from a union place, and from a business professional place. Thank you for being here, Janae. So I'm just going to give all of them a round of applause. This is just a, you can do it at home. We're just going to clap. Thank you. So let's jump right in. I mean, you know, this is the kind of the seed of this came out of having the question, what is actually going on for us now through the pandemic and post-pandemic? And of course, Zoom has been critical. Zoom, camera, phone, our phones have been critical in helping us to sort of get through and still do things. I want to know from the panelists how technology has influenced your journey as a dancer during the pandemic? In other words, what are those changes that you've seen? I'm going to start with Danielle because she's a busy woman, and I don't actually know that I have her for the whole panel. I think we lose her at some point. So I want to start with Danielle. How's the technology been working for you, against you, beside you during this?
Um, well, it's definitely been a shift. I can say I know like all the facets of Zoom now, and I don't think I could have said that before the pandemic. Just interviews as opposed to just straight auditions and auditioning through Zoom. So that's been a really big change as opposed to being in the room. It's a different kind of connection. So you have to like project and kind of be a different performer over camera through Zoom, as opposed to getting that kind of intimate time in a space with the people hiring you, or if you're hiring someone. It's so much different meeting people in person. You can kind of, as like a choreographer hiring someone, you can immediately kind of see their personality or how they present themselves. And over Zoom, there's like a disconnect. Mm-hmm. So that's been a really interesting thing to navigate. And then, I think the auditions this is like, I'm sure we'll have more conversation about this, but just having like auditions that you submit now and having to be your like own sound engineer and your own lighting professional and designer and kind of directing your videos. It's right. You've really kind of shifted from being a dancer, a choreographer, to capturing all these minute jumps into one thing. Yeah. So I mean, I would welcome and Janae, Dacia, and Danny to jump in on if you guys are like filling me on what I'm saying and just adding instead of it just being me, because I think that this has probably been like such a collective experience. And the teaching, I know a lot of us are also teachers. Like I can tell you, I have taught so many classes on Zoom now that when I raise this hand, it's my left, but I say right. And so when I'm in person teaching now, I cannot get the sides of my body straight anymore. So
learning left to right is real. It is real.
It is real. So it's been I would have to say some of it's probably a positive change and some has kind of been like a little detrimental and like mentally really hard and emotionally hard. So yeah.
I know that's the adjustments, those adaptations that you mentioned are challenging because they're so small, and we don't often think that we have to integrate that into our thought process about a class. Even there's so much other stuff that goes into that this becomes a major thing. Dacia, Danny, do you have any ideas on technology as it pertains to sort of your dancer journey?
I think what's also been difficult is seeing how hard it is to get jobs and how hard it is to either get auditions and book a job already. And, being on the other side recently with, producers or music video directors and receiving submissions from dancers and seeing how difficult it is, and then being in that position before. I used to live in an apartment with 5 people and, having to submit yourself and not having the means to go and rent a studio, either if they're not open or the hours are weird, you can't afford it, and seeing some of these kids really struggle to, move things in their apartment with all their other people that live there to try and get like a good quality video that's lit well, or they're outside. And almost it's been hard because I see a lot of the empathy from the other side not being there, like the directors being like, oh my gosh, why is she lit so poorly? Why can't I see her face? And I think a lot of that understanding is being lost, assuming that everyone just has like the picture perfect scenario to submit something. And that's been really difficult to watch because I know how difficult it is to do something like that. And like a lot of these things have crazy turnarounds. And learn this line and show me this thing in the camera and then cut the whole thing together, where a lot of people don't even know how to use iMovie or Final Cut. And I think the expectations are extremely high where it's already hard enough as it is. And that's been a little difficult to watch. And I would say that's my input on that.
That's it. That's also
like learn, and like how Danielle was saying, just like with teaching and learning these routines off of a computer. And, that's really hard, especially for me. I've never been the one to take online classes. It's very difficult. So you're expected to learn this routine from someone, you know, that you don't know, and reverse it or not reverse it. And then it's a lot. It's a lot. And I know a lot of dancers are being considered now for jobs based off of, you know, their social media in regards to that. I just think it's a lot of pressure for this new generation of dancers. And I try so hard as a choreographer or producer of something to alleviate that and make it as easy as possible. But I definitely think it's something that needs to be talked about and recognized for sure.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, and it's good that you're as when you're wearing the other hat as a choreographer, you're mindful of all of the things
Mhm.
that we're visited with when we are on the other side of that. You know,
Exactly.
that is Dacia, they've been doing, I imagine that you all have been in Atlanta doing self tapes for an even prior to the pandemic, that there was some version of that going on before. Has that changed a lot or grown at all, or?
Yeah, it's a bit peculiar here because in Los Angeles, there wasn't as many self-tapes versus Atlanta is the self-tape hub. Like that's all we're doing is
Mhm.
self-tapes on a consistent basis. So that part of the pandemic, I would say, didn't shift as much because a lot of us had to, as you can see, backdrop lighting. It's all here, right? Because this is what we do on a regular basis. I think the challenge is kind of like what Danny said in regards to the social media, like that is really becoming a significant entity in terms of your branding. So where when you're filling out casting information, it's like, what's your name? And then what's your handle? So now they're checking out your numbers and how your numbers can contribute to their particular brand. So I think as dancers, we have to get even more savvy in terms of branding ourselves on social media now versus prior to that, we had the option, but now it's becoming a part of the audition process. So I think that can be the difficult aspect for many people that are not as savvy or have the time to and the diligence to put in to maintaining your social media like that so that it becomes an aspect of your social media. So I think that many of us had to get creative from a branding perspective in terms of how our social media can help us get to another level or even get looked at a second time. But I believe with the whole cameras, lights, it's so normal here. Like we beg to get in the room. Can we please get in the room? Because we are constantly doing self-tapes. But I will say from a teaching aspect, it's very difficult and the investment is real because I had to get a mixer so that the music that they're hearing is on time with the way that I'm teaching because there's a delay and then there's a disconnect. And so you're now buying mixers and microphones. What do you say?
I didn't know there was a fix for that. You
No,
actually,
what?
Yes, it's a mixer. It's like a DJ,
Girl,
I've
what?
been holding
like
on
a
to
podcast
that.
situation. Yes.
Dacia, this is why you're here today.
Oh my God. I've been like teaching to like off counts for the past
Me
year.
too.
I'm sorry, I had to interrupt you because I'm going, am I the only one on this panel who doesn't know about this?
No, I
Oh.
just wrote it down. I was like, mixer.
You
Yes.
YouTube, I started to Google how to eliminate the delay so that, when I'm teaching, you can hear me
You
as
can give corrections off of timing.
What?
Exactly. So
Imagine.
a mixer, guys. But it's like
And
$100 and something. It's an investment, right? And then you got to get
Yeah.
a microphone, and I have the little wireless mic. It's so Janet Jackson over here, but but it gets the job done. But that's me in terms of like my perfectionism that I probably
Exactly.
need to, but it's like, no, I want you to feel me as much as possible. And it's hard, teaching when you don't really know the counts that I'm on. So I definitely had to do the research in terms of that. So I think it's an investment as well. And you're investing in yourself and you don't know what the return on the investment will be in the season. That's the difficult part.
Listen,
and I would like to note that out of all of us, she has the nice background with the great lighting.
there is that. There is that. She's actually demonstrating her competence.
Yeah.
Her competence on all of the stuff that she said.
Something she said about putting the money in, people in Atlanta were already doing this, but for LA and probably New York, where it wasn't as common, all of a sudden when the pandemic hit and all the jobs stopped, you had to then invest in these products that you probably didn't have the money for. And so that's definitely another thing on top of it. And kind of to what Danny said about being on the other side and seeing maybe how the producers and different people aren't that empathetic because they don't understand. I have heard so many stories where, I mean, one dancer who was on RW&W recently brought up how they were in an audition and the casting didn't know that their mic wasn't muted, and they made a comment on, why is there space like that, da, 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 da. And the dancer was like, hey, heard ya. If you give me this job, I can have the money to fix that space and do a better audition for you.
Yeah, there's been so many of those.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad that got said, that the dancer said, hey, just want to address that for a moment so that we can all be clear on this reality we're in.
Yes, this couch behind me, this is my bed. Yep.
This is it. This is it. That's where I sleep, actually. Right here. I move things around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. That is, you mentioned social media, Dacia, and I'm wondering, I know that for me, it's been that branding part has been challenging, right? Because in addition to trying to sort out what it is, your sort of artistic identity in the social media space, there's also whatever other hustle you had to pick up, in the meantime, just to keep lights on, right? Because the industry shut down, so you got to figure something else out. And I know that the social media part becomes, well, I'm not really dancing right now. I'm not really working as much. I need to figure out what I'm going to put out there. What has that been like for you all? Danny, how have you modified your social media kind of game, or if at all?
I mean, it's definitely been a little difficult because then I found a trend with me and a lot of other people in my world. Throwback to that one time I produced the Billboard Music Awards, like throwback to this. So it's like this constant, I saw everyone, doing the, throwback because we had nothing to be said for what was there. And then I think like what Dacia was saying was, did I want to, it was amazing. I had the time and the energy to like do passion projects. But at that point I was like, wait, do I really want to invest this money into something that, I don't know if I'm going to work? Like, it was this really weird uncomfortability of not knowing what the future was going to hold financially, but also being really excited and inspired by this downtime. And it was this really odd limbo. So I was like, okay, what do I put out in social media? I don't want to look like I'm sitting here depressed, but we're all depressed. I mean, to be completely transparent, I started selling pasta. Like, I was like, okay, I'm going to make pasta and sell pasta, and I'm not going to like loom over the industry and what I'm doing. I'm just going to take this time and, learn new programs and, whatever that is. But at the same time, I was in a really fortunate position financially, which I had never been before. And, I think back to our years of being a dancer, and that was never the feeling of like financially stable. And I kept thinking about, okay, how do I put myself out on social media? I want to be transparent and honest, yet I also want to remain professional. And like, I work and do stuff a lot. So when the world does start to pick back up, directors or producers will start looking at my stuff, in a different way. And it was a very weird line. I'm like, how many more living room freestyle videos do I want to see? Do I want to be like freestyling in my backyard? And it was this, I saw everyone go through an identity crisis, I think, online of, what do I post? How do I post? And I thought it was really, really weird for a while. I think everyone was really trying to figure it out. But now, kind of being on the other side, I think people are so desperate for like to get attention on projects. And what Dacia was saying earlier, it's like, when I'm on a job choreographing, they're like, well, which one has the most followers? Because we need more eyes on this project. Everyone's putting out stuff now, so we need the most eyes. Can you replicate this TikTok dance style? And I feel like a lot of jobs now are getting weird in that sense of like, it needs to be the coolest, needs to be the most up to date, the most current, because I don't know. And it's just weird.
How much of the gigs that you've done, Danny, during the pandemic, how many of them are, or would you say are from self-tapes, direct bookings, or that based on, your resume or agent submission, or just media presence? How has that stacked up for you in terms of the jobs you've worked?
I just did a national commercial with Old Navy, and the whole thing was through self tapes. And then we did a callback with a casting agency virtual. And it was so crazy to me. Like it was a virtual waiting room with the dancers, and I was sitting there with the director 12 feet apart in the room, and we're looking at them. And it was really crazy because you're having to learn how to navigate all this stuff on the computer, like syncing Dropbox to your computer, and then the video, like it's a lot to learn. Like we already juggle so much as dancers and choreographers and producers, like it's already so much. And then to learn this whole other world of the computer and files, and it was a lot. And you're trying to like watch everything, and then some people are outside, some people are in the living room, some people are in a studio. So then you're looking at all these different backgrounds, and you're not trying to take all that in, but you know, it's an aesthetic, and you're looking at it all. And the director and the producers, the agency or the client are looking at the people with like the cleanest thing. I'm like, wait, no, that person's actually really incredible. I knew they just got off set. They were doing a J-Lo Global Citizen show, and I know they wrapped at 4 a.m. and her callback's at 7. Like, can you give her a break? And then they're like, well, what's her social media? Let's go look at it. I'm like, oh my God, I hate this. I'm like, can't you just like respect like the artist and the dancer right in front of you and not take all this other shit into consideration? Sorry, can I steal?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
I'm gonna say that it's fine, and the other people can get me later.
Oh, sorry. You know, and that's the frustrating part, is watching like my friends or people that have come up with that are so talented and so capable of a job, and maybe being overlooked because of their knowledge isn't as new as like these 21-year-olds or 18-year-olds. That's the hard part.
Yeah, it's definitely something I think that was happening even before the pandemic hit, having to add your handle to your auditions, even your in-person ones. It was before, it was just like name, agency, union, yes or no, you know, and now it's name, agency, union, handles. And you're kind of like, I think it's really unfortunate in a way that the older generation, and by older, I don't mean old, I just mean older than 20, you know, and we didn't grow up with social media, and we didn't grow up with marketing skills like that. Like you went to college to be in the marketing industry. Now you just grow up learning how to market yourself and brand yourself. And it's so different. And so you're getting these really amazing dancers and choreographers with huge resumes and like so much artistry just being overlooked because they don't do social media, or they're not that great at it. They don't get the aesthetic of it. They don't, post a million TikTok videos. And it's really, it's changed what our industry looks like. It changes who's on set, who's in charge, you're having young choreographers with no experience. It's really making a huge difference on set. And even in the teaching rooms, like on these conventions, they're businesses. So they want to draw in that person who just got off, so you think you can dance, or someone who has all the kids following them, as opposed to an actual like really great master, I use that word so like this, but master teacher. And so it's been a really huge shift in our industry before the pandemic hit, and I think it's an even bigger shift. I would say TikTok surged in the pandemic. And so I feel like some goodness has come out of it, and it's some really unfortunate things that, like Danny said.
Yeah, there's a couple of things with that too that I just wanted to jump in on, is just from, my agent days, when the rise of IG, it was really trying to explain to clients that you really already have to be in hyphenate there, right? You have to utilize those platforms to show everything that you can do skill-wise, and that you're not just a dancer, and rethinking what a dancer is, right? It's, your body's your business. So then that becomes your brand, right? So how do you brand yourself? How do you brand yourself appropriately using, the social media, and then how to expand on that, right? How to get the followers, putting out good content that's going to capture people. That started happening 10 years ago, right? And so now we have TikTok, as Danielle said, has just exploded, during the pandemic. So now it's this big focus on, you have to put your handle down. They want to see how many followers you have, because they want to see what free business they can capture from you as far as the advertising side is concerned, right? That's going to sit and draw business into these larger brands that really utilize, social media. So it's been something that happened 10 years ago that has just, fully captivated the dance industry, to where you started already having to be a hyphenate. It wasn't so, it wasn't good enough to be already a triple threat or a quadruple threat. Now I got to brand myself to be a social media threat, right? So it's this weird thing, but it's, it's made dancers have to change the way they think about seeing themselves as a brand and not just a dancer.
Sure. And well, Janae, with that, I mean, there's that idea of sort of the kind of multiplicity of what we do, right? And then in addition to that, there's sort of the locations of the jobs inside of the protection space, right? So if it's television, film, it's probably going to be SAG-AFTRA, it's going to be us. If it's a live Broadway, musical theater, et cetera, or even straight plays, it's probably going to be Equity. There's dance companies or AGMA. There are a lot of jobs that are not jurisdictional necessarily. So given that there's all of that, and then there's everything that you just said about sort of the multiplying of hats for the people who do what we do, what additional expectations or what additional things should we as dancers be asking our employers now before accepting a job, or what should we be trying to find out?
Yeah, I think there's, a couple things. Obviously, you want to know if there's a jurisdiction overseeing it. Is it union? Because as union members, no matter what union you work, you can't work off the card, right? So ensuring it's a union job. And if it isn't a union job, just know that we can turn it very quickly, very easily. We can turn it into a union job, and that's going to give you working conditions and minimum scale rates that they can't pay you less than for your time of work. And then you get overtime and double time. And, if there's meal breaks, so you have all those protections under a union job. So it's asking that, what's the length of the job? So, how long am I going to be on this job? Am I going to be on a long hold? Do I need to already have a upfront conversation with you about, well, I have other jobs that I might have lined up as well, and I want to make all of them work so I can get the most money out of my time doing my work. And then there's also too asking, what is the additional things that you're expecting me to do, right? Are you expecting me to sit and promote this on my socials and bringing that additional income into the brand? How am I going to be able to take advantage of that? So I'm getting that additional income too. So taking advantage of that. So, yourself or your agent might have additional bargaining tools to sit and say, okay, well, you want to utilize their social media to sell this brand, then, they're going to have to be additionally compensated. It's not just going to come for free or be inclusive in their scale rate. So those are a couple different things that you definitely want to put out there. And then now with the rise of it, is this a project I'm going to have to film myself at home and give you editing rights, right? So that's also the larger scope of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good information on just
Well,
how to get that business part of it,
Yeah, and something just to add to that, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, when jobs first started to come back in the beginning, when a lot of it was we were filming ourselves and they were creating the actual shows with our self-taped stuff. So it wasn't like we were coming to set, we were actually filming at home. And so just getting that extra time with the sound engineer to make the sound is going to sync up with the other dancers. And then you're sitting with the lighting designer to make sure the lighting is going to match the full video or whatever the performance is. And, talking to your agent beforehand to know that you're doing that, to ask for additional compensation for that, because that is not in the purview of a dancer role. And so it's things like that, which I think a lot of us didn't do because it was so new and overwhelming, but it's something that is still happening. And I think, sorry, I'm taking my mask on and off. This is side noting because I'm in a space where people are coming in and out, but yeah, so it's just something I know it was a huge thing. Like, okay, if I'm lighting this, directing this and that, and you're putting it up here, I should be compensated for directing this video, for lighting this video, and for doing the sound and the 3 extra hours before we even started taping that I just spent, because that's the 3 hours added on to my 8-hour day. And so I probably will hit overtime much quicker, so.
And it was also like, sorry to cut you off, but
no, go for it.
Off of what you're saying is, then at the same time you're producing, because you were having to be like the middleman between the sound designer and the lighting guy. And then at a lot of jobs that I was seeing happen and I asked to be a part of, they're coming and dropping off all of this equipment at your house. And then you're having to sanitize it all and do all this stuff and take photos and show that you did that. I mean, you're spending like 4 or 5 hours setting all this stuff up that you've never done, and then you're FaceTiming and videoing and making sure it's all the same, like to stay continuous with the other performers, and then you're having to learn the routine and then perform the routine, send it in, wait for the feedback if it was adequate enough or not, and then break everything down, sanitize it, put it in the containers, put it outside your house, again, communicate with the production team. That in itself, you're taking more time doing that than your actual job that you're in your profession. And at that point, I think a lot of people were just so honored to be working. And I think a lot of production teams were being like, well, you take the job or not. And then a lot of the excuses have been, well, the whole COVID thing is very expensive. It's 20% of our budget. So this is all we have. And at this point, everyone just needed money and work so badly. Anyone would do anything at this point. And that was difficult to watch or to be, approached with. Or like, I did a lot of motion capture music videos and stuff. And it's just me in my apartment alone with someone else, like making sure I know how to do this. I'm like, I don't know how to put a suit on and put all this stuff on. Like, this is insane. But
getting your roommate or your partner to like hit play and like adjust the camera on you, and all of a sudden you're bringing outside talent into the, so it's just the purview of what we did changed. But also I think it was very slow for us to change our mindset. And actually I need extra compensation.
Absolutely.
And my time starts right when I do anything pertaining to this job and ends when I'm completely finished doing anything with this job. And I think obviously we've kind of moved past that, and things are filming in person, but there is still an aspect of that work happening. And so I think we need to approach it the way that we're speaking of right now, which is, this is what my time is worth. It starts at this moment. If I'm doing these extra things, there is extra compensation that needs to be had. And I think we need to just, at this moment, can't dwell on the past, but move forward in that kind of way.
Right. Well, and then the idea too of having sort of wearing all those hats, understanding when we are doing so many things that now we are really producers, and then starting to understand. One of the things I liked about the influencer agreement is that it reframes us as talent and as producers, but deals with us as producers. So, you're the producer, and then you're hiring yourself as a choreographer, you're hiring yourself as a dancer, you're hiring yourself as everything that you just said, as the scene designer, set work, all of it. You're doing all of that to make whatever this content happens to be. And so it becomes about, if we're hyphenates, then the point is, which one of those is the predominant part that covers the most of what it is, and then how do we then get the compensation that we need based on it. I think at one point, Danielle, we put out, or we were putting together sort of what all of these other jobs cost. In other words, if you hired someone to do wardrobe, if you hired someone to do this, they're all covered by different unions, and they have rates that are published. So it becomes another way of sort of de facto discounting dancers when you have dancers doing all of those other things that happen in sort of that world. Janae, tell us a little bit about choreographer versus dancer contracts. I know that because you're an agent, I say because you are an agent, because you were an agent, you have a whole other lens through which you look at that with those kinds of contracts. I mean, that's just 2 of the 12 that you might wear hat-wise in order to make content. But just what are the differences for those 2?
Yeah, so it's important for those to know that dancers are principal performers under SAG-AFTRA agreements. So whether you're doing TV, film, new media, commercial, music videos, you are principal performers. And that's really important. And I think it's really important for producers to know that too, because oftentimes they can kind of like try to poo-poo dancers and put them in this, oh, you're just background. It's like, no, I'm not background. I'm visually creating the scene for you, right? Because that's what dancing is. It's a visual process. And so it's important for dancers to know that under anything that SAG-AFTRA has jurisdiction under, you are covered. It is covered work. The second part of that is choreographers aren't fully covered under SAG-AFTRA contracts. So choreographers are covered for purposes of pension and health or health and retirement, depending on what contract you work under us, that contribution is going to go to. But in order for them to get that coverage, they had to be vested for 5 of 10 years as a dancer. So what vestment means is you would have had to qualify for eligibility for health insurance. So meeting a certain threshold in your earnings in order to qualify for that, whether or not you decided to be on SAG-AFTRA's health plan, which is a great health plan, but you have to meet that requirement for 5 of 10 years as a dancer in order to actually qualify to get the contribution as a choreographer. So that's something that's really important. And we definitely encourage our members and performers, our pre-members, to reach out to the health plan and check your credits, check your earnings. You can do that on our website as well. You can log into the website, you can log on to our mobile app as well, and you can actually see your earnings from year to year and keep track of that, because that's also a bargaining tool as a choreographer that you have going into a job and saying, well, I'm vested and on this job that I'm working 6 months on, I want to make sure I'm getting my contribution. So that's important for everyone to know as well, is the difference between a choreographer contract and a dancer contract, but how that dancer contract reflects how you're able to get on a choreographer contract.
Gotcha.
It's actually very valuable. I did not know that.
Oh, no, it is very valuable.
Danny, get your health and pension, yo.
Well, I mean, it to be completely transparent, yeah, I was, professional dancer with SAG for 10 years. And then once I made that switch from being a dancer to a choreographer, I lost my health insurance because obviously I wasn't making the same money, in the union. And that was really hard. I'm like, well, this sucks. Like, I am working for all these union jobs, but not contributing to my health or pension or retirement. And I was like, man, this blows. But
yeah,
I mean, thank God I'm sitting here. And I know that a lot of people that will be watching this will find that very helpful, because I think it is a scary transition, because you're like, wait, am I still going to be, am I still gonna have that amazing healthcare plan? Am I still going to be, receiving all of these benefits? So, yeah, I'm going to sit and do more research and post more about that. Thank you.
Yeah, call me, Danny. I'll help you out with that. But
I'm honored.
It is so important, and it's an important thing, because as dancers and as choreographers, our body, like I said, our body is our business, right? So we have to keep our body healthy in so many ways, and having access to health insurance and really good health insurance is going to be able to help you elongate your career as a dancer and a choreographer, and not just saying, well, I did my 10 years and that was in my prime, and, I've got body here and there and I just can't do it anymore. Don't be a Janae. That happened to me when I was 17 and had a really bad accident, and then I couldn't continue to dance professionally, right? So, it's so important to know those things that are available to you so you can keep your body healthy, so you have a long career.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people will find that information very valuable, because I do know, like, our generation, Danielle and Dacia, like, we're all making that transition. So I think it is scary for a lot of people when you start to do that transition of like, wait, I've been doing this for so long, and I know that I can make my dues, I get my insurance, and that everything's great. And so I think that's really valuable information. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, no, it is. I'm very valuable, and that's all part of the education, right? That's the dance that we don't get anywhere. We learn how to dance, and then we get out of the industry and we kind of go, oh, so what happens next? Headshots, resumes, and things like that. And of course, as this conversation has shown over and over again, that list of things to know in the world of how to conduct the business of dance just grows, it just gets longer and longer. Understanding, where contracts sit, what unions they sit in or don't. It's a whole lot. And then also too, when you're working a union job, and when you're working a non-jurisdictional job, something that is not covered by any union, which is for most of us teaching conventions and all of that stuff. I want to lift something out of the conversation earlier that one of you said about working off the card. I think it got mentioned, which is basically Global Rule 1 says, if you are covered by a union and you are working union jobs, then you should not work any non-union jobs. That's just kind of a across the board. Dacia, you are in a right to work state, and I want to know are you able, what tactics, I mean, I don't even know where to start the question. How do you keep people working on the card?
What
Like,
are we doing down here?
well, I mean, that's a whole other kind of trigonometry that you're doing over there with sort of trying to make sure that people stay protected, understanding that the more we work off the card and do the other thing, the more we lower the price point for what it is we do.
And
Yeah,
I think it would be nice just to say what a right to work state is, because I think a lot of people probably don't know, haven't heard that before.
Right. A right to work. Well, actually, Dacia, do you want to? I mean, you're there. She's the expert on.
I'm definitely not the expert because we're still trying to figure out what the heck a right to work state is ourselves down here. So if you want to give the formal, because I can get the frustrated version, but you can give the formal.
My brother is a lawyer and he's in the corner laughing right now at this conversation.
Oh my God!
And they can help you on that.
Right. Yeah, I can actually jump in on this. So a right to work state means that you do not have to be a member of a union in order to work a union job. So that's what a right to work state is. So basically you can work union jobs without ever joining and paying dues and getting all the full advantages that you get for being a dues paying member. That's what a right to state work is.
Yeah.
And I know in a lot of right to work states, like in LA, you have one agent, you're signed with that agent. In a right to work, you might have multiple agents. And so they're undercutting and competing. And it's just a very different world. And so it's much harder to navigate. And so I think it's an interesting field to be in.
And
Yeah.
Gabrielle and I were just listening to your conversation, and it's we're like the little eavesdroppers here as the officers going, what a great topic. And I'd love to hear the strategies, but I think it's also important to remind people that that's terminology that is used by forces that are anti-labor. A lot of people like to call it right to work for less, or you get to freeload or things like that. It's just important that people have those kind of contexts, because it really harms people's ability to organize more work. And dancers have actually been really awesome at organizing more work. So I know it's a subject near and dear to your heart, but we're back and we'll let her answer if she's got good strategies to keep people faithful to the union.
Dacia.
With that lovely pink.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought we were going back. So it is very difficult to navigate the circumstances down here. Me coming from Los Angeles, you do say that there's a difference in the work that you can get as a union member, because the incentives, the agents don't give incentives down here for people to actually join the union. It's actually the opposite. They're like, oh, don't join the union. So we're constantly fighting with Dancers Alliance, forming a community down here, educating our dancers on, just the benefits of being in the union, trying to turn the gigs into union gigs so that we have more dancers here that are abreast to the benefits of being a part of it. But it can get very sticky with the agents, right? Because in Los Angeles, like Danielle said, you have this one agent who's navigating for you from television to film to music video across the board. But in Atlanta, you might have a dancer who has a choreographer, and that specific choreographer might have the job. And then you have this interesting dynamic of your agency that you're under will take 10%, but also the agent that has the job, the choreographer that has the job, will act as a manager in some cases and take another 10 off top, or 20, depending on what that agency or manager is. So now as a dancer, you're coming off with 20 to 30% off of your check. Okay. Insane, right? That's just insane for you to be in a position to where you can get honest work, right? Like do your due diligence and you're still getting all of this taken out of your check. So what we're trying to do down here is to just educate and know your worth, right? Because in us banding together and deciding, hey, we're not going to do this for this and we're not going to do this for this, we have been able to adjust some, rates and get some jobs turning into union jobs. But I do think that it's just different here, because I think the incentive to become union, it's a difficult fight to get dancers to join the union down here when you have the opposing saying, you know, it's not worth it because it's a right to work state, but it's also educating them on what a right to work state is, because they don't exactly know, and only listening to agents in some aspects telling them what a right to work state is because of the benefits of the agents that they get.
Right. I do call it right to freeload. And we've worked very hard to flip those states, because the truth is that we want to keep our contracts very strong. And as people choose, when they choose ever to really work off the contract, what it does is it creates a vacuum or a trench that really separates. It just makes it more difficult in the future for us to really build the contracts in a way that are really significant and supportive. So what looks like a good deal up front actually makes all ships lower rather than all ships rise. So we're going to work and continue fighting on that, but it's really important that you shared what that is, that experience. So thank you. And I actually think this conversation has been fabulous. Thank you for sharing everything. We have so many questions coming in from members. I know that we might not get to everything, but I really am going to try, because it's so valuable, the information that you're sharing. So if you don't mind, Jamal, this has been a really wonderful conversation. If we could go and let you answer some of the questions with everybody, because they're really important. That people have really enjoyed this. You should see the stuff coming in. One of the things, and some of it you might have said earlier, actually, if there's any redundancy, sometimes it's because people need to hear it a different way. So they might be phrasing it and you'll hear that. One of the questions here is, if I'm in a production that includes both pre-taped and live performances of the same piece, is all of that work under one contract, or would it be under two different contracts? And I'll leave that to you.
Can I actually?
Hey, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So Gabrielle, this is something I wanted to bring up immensely with these shows that have been happening, that, you know, are live shows or these live streams or these, because I've been working on a lot of them as a director or a producer and a choreographer. And it's been really weird navigating this hourly. Is it hourly? Is it a weekly? Is it this? And I think it's been really weird because you're hired under this, you know, SAG contract, and everyone's like, yes, SAG, I'm going to be working for 10 weeks. And then you get on the job, and then it turns into an hourly thing, or then they just try to, you know, get you in and get you out. And then you're thinking you're making this flat rate. And then they're like, well, it's a new contract. No one knows what they're doing. And, and then it goes into the pre-production, the production, or if you're a skeleton for it or on the thing. I think it's a weird thing that's going on right now with all of this new live pre-recorded. Is it live? Is it not? Do you get a buyout? Do you not? Scenario that's going on. And I would love to talk about that.
Yeah, so those productions are covered under what's called our network code agreement. So our network code agreement works a little bit differently than what you typically see under TV, theatrical, or other contracts where they're typically a daily or a weekly. Network code is a program fee. So what the program fee does is it covers X amount of hours over X amount of days. And it's a little wonky because you technically start with the show day and you work backwards. And that's how you're able to sit and calculate your hours. So for dancers, one of the great things is under the program fee is there's nothing for you that's called a regular day. So all other performers have regular day where it breaks down to a less hourly rate. Once a dancer exhausts their included hours and their included days, it automatically jumps to the overtime rate, which unfortunately right now is an hourly rate. We're hoping that in, you know, a future negotiation, we're able to change that to really reflect a true overtime. But yes, once you go past your included hours, included days, they're called out of span days. And those are all paid at an hourly rate.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for answering that. Very helpful to hear what the confusion is and to be able to hear how it works for the network.
Yeah, and that hourly rate is not at an 8-hour a day thing. It just is the rate. There is no extra overtime or anything. So if in one day you hit 9 hours, you just get those 9 hours of that rate, which is something we're working on to change. But currently it doesn't hit an 8-hour and then you go overtime or double time. So if you work for 3 weeks at that hourly rate, unfortunately, it's 3 weeks at that hourly rate.
And pulling back further as far as the lens of this, it's important to, and I just want to lift this. I know Janae said it, that there is a difference between the net code contract and the TV theatrical contract. And I think that, Danny, what happens is a lot of us assume right away that if it's television or film, or that certainly if it's television, that it must be the TV theatrical contract, and we start to
Yeah.
think in those terms. So yeah, this net code agreement is entirely different and was built at a time when variety shows on television were very, very different.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's important.
And last thing, I think it's nice to just note, so TV theatrical, which I mean, the network code contract covers things like award shows, daytime television, variety shows, and like late night, like SNL, James Corden, and that kind of stuff. And so if you're working one of those, that's network code and it's not the TV theatrical contract. And so they have very different rates and just everything. It's very different contract.
Thank you for sharing that, because people aren't aware of that. So that's a good reflection on that. Rebecca, I think you had a question you wanted to share.
Yeah, we had a lot of questions that fall into this bucket about how do you self-tape filming yourself dancing and the challenges around that. And one of the questions specifically wanted to know, if you live by yourself and you're not like super tech savvy, how do you handle that? People also wondered any particular equipment, if you have a limited budget, if you could sort of cover what are the needs that might be different. A lot of people think about self-taping for actors and don't think about dancers self-tape. Like, I think that's one of the things you guys are really bringing to light, all these topics. So help people out there. You've got some dancers out there that want to know.
Yeah. I think what the best after, seeing as a choreographer, being a dancer and like being in the room with producers and directors that are watching these and listening to their feedback, iPhones are incredible. People film full movies and commercials and TV shows on these iPhones. I think majority of people have them. They have beautiful camera settings like, 4K and 1080 that capture things like incredibly well. I think we all resort to our laptops a lot of the time, and I don't think it actually captures everything so beautifully, but I do believe, setting your iPhone up somewhere. I mean, there's been times where I take it and I just tape it to like a chair or something, like, it doesn't have to be super glamorous, but if you can get some sort of nice angle with your iPhone, I think that people maybe underestimate the beauty of a phone. I mean, even not an iPhone, they have like great cameras and beautiful video settings. I think it's great. And just, I think having something well lit, and at that point, it is what it is. A lot of people go outside, and I actually really love that. They have the space, the room, and it's well lit. But I think that would be, those two things are good. I don't know anyone else.
And yeah, I would say the iPhone does have like such an amazing camera. And if you're like the only person at your place, the nice thing is I do this all the time. Like, I press play, I like do my thing set up, and then you can just easily go on your phone to edit, and you can clip that whole part out. So like, once I'm in place to start, I hold for a moment and then hit play. If you're lucky enough to have an iWatch, you can hit play on your iWatch, which is like a really nice way, so you can kind of like discreetly hit it. So those are like two things if you're by yourself, which are nice. And the editing on the iPhone is pretty easy, just to clip the end or the beginning of your video.
Yeah, I think a quick trim makes your submission like so much more professional and easy to digest. It's the running back and forth, but like, okay, wait, if you're just there, take a second, trim it, have your bit. And at the end, when you run back to pause the music, just trim that out. And I think that makes a world of a difference to, the people that are way more removed, that have never been in that position.
Also, there's a piece, my friend got this for me. I don't know the name of it. I can't see it, but there's inexpensive little things like you can actually Bluetooth to your phone. So you can actually stand in front of it, just hit the button discreetly in your hand. And then it starts the camera. I think that this is going to actually be a good piece that we might want to do on how to self-tape. Because we do self-tape, but how to do it for dancers and some ideas. So we'll talk about that down the road, because this is very, very, very interesting.
You can also too, for, you know, like $20 at Marshall's or TJ Maxx, get those like selfie sticks with the light on it. And, you know, that helps capture the light and whatnot. And Samsungs are great phones too. If you're an Android user and you have a Samsung, those cameras are insane as well. And
they're actually better.
They're actually better. They're actually better.
They actually are better.
We're not promoting product, but there you go.
There you go.
But we didn't want to leave the Androids out because we
Yeah.
Right. That's right. We want to be all inclusive.
Yeah,
All
I'm
inclusive.
agnostic. There you go. Even though
one app is Filmic Pro. It's a really good app for taping as well. And so you can like change your lighting and your filters on there. It's an amazing Filmic Pro.
You said
Filmic Pro, yeah, like Film IC Pro, and really good. And I would say, you know, a tripod like is a necessity. I know we can tape it, but I have seen tripods for $5 at estate sales. You know, there might be the older ones, but you can tape it to the older one if you need to. If you can't afford the, you know, just the phone holder. I think that's another one. If you can't afford it, a ring light. I would definitely recommend get it for your phone, because lighting is you're seeing that in every single audition. Make sure we can hear you well and make sure we can see you well. So I think it's being mindful of the things that are most important to invest in, which is your lighting. And in some cases, if you have to speak your sound. And I'm with Danny, outside has been the way to go. A park, somewhere, you know, where you can really have this space, and then you can also get the scenery by default without paying.
Yeah. No, the ring light, also with the ring light, yes, you can get a really inexpensive one. If you have just a little more money, the ones that have adjustable lights that sort of will give you different qualities of white and amber are really, really good, just to change up the mood.
And if not, they have them for like 20, they have like cheaper ring lights that are like 20, $25. And that extra light on your face makes such a big difference. And if you have to film in your apartment or wherever you are, take a sheet, like one plain colored sheet, doesn't matter what color it is, and you can tape it over anything and literally duct tape it to your wall. So you just have a clean background if you have to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just
not
makes
always
it this is same for acting. They're saying the same. It's about, so you can focus on the work rather than anything. You don't want to be distracted. These are great things to suggest. Thank you for that, you guys. We will be doing something on this for dancers. But one of the things that, you know, look, this is a common question that comes up is, and we find it for everybody, how do I find a good dance agent? What kind of work should be included on my dance reel? So, you know, just so people can feel a flavor of what is it they need to be considering, instead of just, well, I dance.
Right. I want to say right off the bat with dance agency is there are obviously the big agencies have auditions and you know, but I will say that it has been beneficial for me my entire career to develop a relationship, to understand that the agent client relationship is just that, it's a relationship. So if you're able to do that, if you're able to sort of, you know, get the vibe and figure it out and sort of like any kind of vibing with the actual person and not just the agency, I always think that that's helpful. I don't know the extent to which that actually is possible these days, given the volume of clients that are on the rosters of these big agencies. So, ladies, do you have any sense of that part of it?
I think to go off what you're saying, when I first signed with my agent, and I sat back a lot and I waited for things to come to me, because I didn't, as an 18-year-old from Ohio, I didn't really understand the concept of an agent. And, you know, I watched Entourage and that was it. So I think it was really nice, you know, being mentored by older dancers and knowing that taking more power in communicating with my agent and nourishing a relationship with them was actually beneficial. It wasn't me overstepping. And just always being in constant communication, no matter how much you think you're annoying them. I know, Janae, you could probably speak differently on this, but I think, you know, at the end of the day, you guys are working together. You're not working for them, and they're not working for you. It's a 50-50 relationship. And it's, you know, yeah, it's about nourishing a relationship at the end of the day and knowing what them knowing what your goals are and your wants and your needs, not just sitting back waiting for them to do all the work. Like, you know, you have your own relationships and you're going to get jobs outside of your agent that, you know, they're going to handle and facilitate, but it is up to you at the end of the day also to, you know, network, you know, be professional. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of dancers forget. They're like, well, my agent hasn't set me on anything. Well, I'm like, have you communicated to them that you haven't gone out in this, or maybe you really want to work for this type of choreographer? So I think it's, you know, being a little more empowered as a dancer and helping your agent also.
Yeah, and I would say as far as getting an agent, you know, agencies do have agent auditions, but they're looking for very specific things that maybe they don't have a lot of people who fit this category. So the first time you audition, you might not get that agent call to come in and sign, but that might be because they have, you know, 40 people who fit your kind of vibe and everything. So you should always kind of check back in. And then I would really say if you tend to book a job on your own or through a friend, or you've been taking someone's class and they hire you, that's a really good time to approach the agent that you've been wanting to maybe get time with and say, hey, will you represent me on this job? And then from there, you guys can talk and maybe sign. And then lastly, you know, a lot of people get agents through their friends. Like, you know, you're friends with someone who's with MSA or Block, and they bring in this really great dancer. I'd love for you to interview them. And, you know, the agency might invite you on a call, ask to see a reel, all of that. And so those are different ways to kind of approach getting an agent. And then once you have the agent, really honing in on what Jamal and Danny said. And I'm saying, like, sitting down and saying, hey, I'd like to put a meeting together with you this week. I want to talk about what my goals are as a dancer, what choreographers I'd like to work with, and what shows and different things I want to be on, so that they really know that you're taking it seriously and that you're a business and that you're not just living your art and your dream, that you're actually like here to be taken serious, because sometimes we're not seen that way. And then as far as reel, I'll hand it off because I can keep talking.
Right. Being proactive, all of that falls under the umbrella of the business of dance part of your being serious about your business with it. And as Danny used the word, I think empowering, be empowered to be proactive about your business. Reels. So since I'm a fossil dance, so my dance
Wait,
reel.
I think Dacia wanted to say something in regards to that.
I'm sorry, Dacia. I didn't go for it.
It's okay. Maybe I didn't speak loud enough, you know. I'm not hooked up to my microphone, so
you have your live, isn't it?
my live's not on. I'll speak to reels really quickly, and then I'll pass on to you because I'm open to even what the new reels look like these days. But I do think that if for those that are just starting off and are you know, they're looking to get an agent, dance reels can be Instagram, TikTok. Like, these are where agencies are going these days. And it's not necessarily like back in the day when you're going into the studio and you're taping yourself in class, right? Those long gone are those days. So I think with even how to kind of shift into the new age, online classes are quite active now. And you can go to the park or go somewhere, and that dance that you've learned online from a teacher, you can actually go and take that specific dance, give the choreographer credit, you know, underneath it, and you're able to add that to your TikTok or even start creating a reels based upon you taking class. Because what they want to do, what agents want to see is you in the genre that you're most proficient in. And so I think in this new age, kind of be smart with it as well, and then take snippets and put that on your social media as well, because agencies are looking at social media these days as well.
I think even more than reels. I work with a music video director, a huge director named Hannah Lux Davis, and she hires dancers all the time. She refuses to look at reels or any resumes. She's like, I just want to see their Instagram. I want to see what classes they take. I want to see what they look like. And that's how she hires all of like with me. She'll just DM me dancers like, have you worked with this person? Are they cool? Are they professional? And I think a lot of people are like directors are loving going on Instagram just because they see almost a non-polished but polished, aspect of them. And Hannah will look at it and be like, oh my gosh, she's worked with Dacia, or she's worked with blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, that's cool. She's cool. And they form a lot of opinions based off of, what you're putting out there. And I think I would rather, and I think you guys can all attest to this, watch someone take someone's class and see how they perform it rather than watching a reel of you dancing on The Voice with 50 other dancers with like a red arrow like this. Like that to me isn't doing it for me.
Right. That's so important too. Like, from the agent perspective is do your research, right? Do your research on these agencies and see how many clients they have, how many clients that look like you and do what you do. That might not be the agency that you want to go for, right? Because they might have 100 of you. And so you feel like you're going to be struggling to sit and stand out. Having the relationship with your agent is super important. Like Danielle said, sitting down, having a meeting, talking about your goals, what you want to do and whatnot. And when you actually obtain that meeting, when you're trying to get an agent, if the agent isn't asking you that and they're just talking about themselves and what they do, that might not be the right person for you, right? The agent should be really engaged to see what it is that you want to achieve and be able to give you feedback like, great, I think these are great goals. This is how we're going to get you there, right? So being open and honest of what you want to do, having that relationship, constantly staying on your agent until you feel like I'm fully on their radar and I'm getting sent out on work that I feel is appropriate for me. If you don't feel like you're getting sent out on work that's appropriate for you, have that conversation with them. So it is a two-way street. You both put in the work. Like Danny said, it is 50-50. And as far as reel goes, Danny hit it on the mark. I personally hated when I would be watching a reel that someone submitted to me and they're this tiny little person out of 50 and there's an arrow and they've lighted it up on the reel. Like, this is me, like that's just so hard to actually see you because really there might be someone else in that clip that's killing it. And now I'm going and I'm looking at them. I'm not looking at you. Right. So, that's important too. And like Dacia said, and, Danny and Danielle, getting into these classes, that's what we want to see. We want to sit and see what classes you're getting in, that you're getting in classes with the right teachers. That is so important as well, because we're going to look at that on your resume too. Like, oh, I'm taking classes from this, and this. And there are a lot of working choreographers out there that still teach classes that you can learn so much from that is going to help you on every job that you work on. So that's really important as well.
This is great. I actually, when I'm thinking about go on.
I just have to cut in because I actually, unfortunately, have to jump off now. And I'm just like super grateful to have been on this panel. I have so much respect for everyone who is on here. And I just love our community. And anyone, feel free to reach out to me anytime. If you don't know, I'm your LA local board rep. I sit on the national board quite often. And had a co-chairing the LA Dancers Committee with Anthony Marciona and vice chairing National Dance Committee with Jamal. So if you guys have questions ever, feel free to reach out to me. I love everybody here and I hope you guys have a really lovely day.
Thank you for everything, Danielle. We really appreciate it. And to everybody here, really for your time and your focus. And it's an inspiration. The conversation is very important. I'm feeling a little inspired myself. I might have to get out there and just do a little. Anyway. On behalf of the team here at SAG-AFTRA, we want to thank you all for just taking the time to be here with us. It's been a real pleasure having you join us. Special thanks to each of you who have been tuning in every week for our President's Task Force on Education, Outreach, and Engagement live streams. If you haven't already, please do. We're here. We want you to subscribe to SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel, get updates on the great content that's been being posted, and stay with us. We have more coming down the road. So thank you, everybody, and take care of yourselves, your bodies, and your spirits. Take care.
Thank you.
You.